welcome back to the More Than Business podcast. I'm your host, Robin Kinney, and this is the launch of season three. I'm so excited for this third season because I really wanted to delve into sustainability and how to take care of yourself as an entrepreneur as your business grows. And I know if you've listened to the last two seasons, you see that this is the common thread, and that's what the More Than Business podcast is all about. It's what goes on behind the scenes of starting, scaling a business. As an entrepreneur, I believe that the business and then the process of entrepreneurship in general introduces you to yourself. So this season, I have mapped out some fun topics, some topics that I think will resonate with anyone who is thinking about starting a business and they want to make sure that they take care of themselves. If wellness is important to you, and you're starting a business or you're growing your business, you're taking your business to the next phase, you're scaling, then you've landed in the right place. If you don't know me, my name is Robin Kinney, and I am a two-time entrepreneur. I've been a full-time entrepreneur now for over 10 years, and before that, I helped other people start their own businesses for 20 years. So that's something that I still have a passion for. But this podcast is really what my journal for the last 20 years have been. How do I take care of myself as an entrepreneur, as I'm growing my business, and what is important. So on today's episode, on the kickoff for season three, we're talking about hobbies. And as you look around, I'm in a different setting. I'm not in a typical setting for a business podcast. That's because I'm coming to you from my garden, where I spend a lot of time. I needed a hobby. I needed something to relax me. And so I thought I would shoot this episode from my garden because today's episode is all about the importance of having a hobby as an entrepreneur. So stay tuned. Now, when I titled the episode about the importance of having a hobby as an entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs will say, why are we even talking about this? I barely have enough time to manage others, make sure that my revenue is growing, make sure that the marketing is on point, um, make sure my family is good. And here you go throwing another ball into this juggling that I'm already doing and talking about hobby. I'll tell you why. Because having a hobby gives you the time and the space to mentally check out, okay? And when you have a hobby, whatever that is, and I'll even give you some examples, some suggestions later on in the episode. It gives your brain a break. And I can speak for myself, having hobbies over the years have given me time to not only relax, but connect with others in a different setting. And I typically come back even stronger. My creativity juices are flowing. I'm able to look at the opportunity within an obstacle after I've had a chance to step away, from a problem that the business may be having. So that's why a hobby is so important. Um, and another thing, and yes, I do have notes. I'm always going to have notes because there's so much that I want to share. One stat in particular that I wanted to share, according to the American Institute of Stress, stress costs businesses hundreds of billions of dollars every year. Okay, hundreds of billions of dollars every year. And so that's affecting your healthcare costs. It's affecting your productivity. It's affecting your vessel, yourself. I mean, think of it as you are your most important business asset. If I am not thinking clearly, If I am feeling sluggish, if I am feeling overwhelmed, it is going to show up in every single email that I write because I'm going to be short with people. It's going to show up in my attention span in meetings. It's certainly going to show up in how I interact with others because I'm going to be annoyed. So having hobbies is important. And in my opinion, not only is it important, it's a necessity for entrepreneurs to have a hobby. Over the years, I've done everything from belly dancing to ceramics, watercolors. Right now, I am into my gardening right now. This summer, I had two things that I wanted to focus on this summer. Okay. It was perfecting my biscuit recipe in my garden. Okay. So every summer I give myself some fun things to focus on, like what's something that I want to just immerse myself in, what's something that I want to learn more about. And so those were the two things of this summer. So I've been deep into my garden and my biscuit recipes. So here's something that I love for you to think about. When was the last time you just immersed yourself in something that brought you joy? It wasn't tied to the business, it wasn't tied to making someone else happy. It just brought you joy. Whatever that is, research how can I do more of that? How can I make space in my day for more of that? Now, I hear you. Most people will say, I'm already busy. When am I making time for a hobby? Look at your schedule. So sit down and say, okay, once a month. So I'm not even going to start with once a week because that may be too much for folks. Once a month, I'm going to do something for 1 hour that brings me joy. It may just be sitting down and coloring. I have adult coloring books that I have. Um, it may be going roller skating. When the last time you went roller skating? Okay. If you don't have the needs for that, I hear you. What about going somewhere and volunteering? I love to volunteer. Nothing brings me more contentment and gratitude than serving someone else. Where I don't have any titles when I'm in that lunch line and I'm serving others. I'm here to just serve. Okay. And there's so many different organizations that can use the skills of entrepreneurs. So you can even start there. It doesn't have to be something with creativity because some people may say, hey, I don't have a creative bone in my body. That's fine. There's other things that you can do um, that could possibly bring you some of that joy. Baking, you can always find me in my kitchen testing out different recipes. I've been on the hunt for the perfect biscuit, and I found this cookbook that is just phenomenal. It has different types of biscuits, and I've just been working my way through that book all summer long, and it's just been a joy to take fresh homemade biscuits to family members that I've made from scratch. And so, and it again, it gives me time to just mentally check out. I have music on, I'm making my biscuits, and I'm just being. You're just being. It's so important to have something that's not tied to productivity all the time because you're going to get that as an entrepreneur. You're going to get that part. So you have to be intentional on making sure that there's space for you to be. Do you like photography? Do you like something where, I don't know, just think back to your childhood with something that makes zero sense right now, but it's like, hey, I used to like doing that. I'm going to check out to see if that's something that I could do again. Writing, reading, bird watching, horseback riding. I love horseback riding. And I'm here in Michigan, and we have a lot of horse stables. We have a lot of farms. We have a lot of places where you could just be out in nature, which I think is very important. You see, I'm typically covered because I don't play around with the sun when I'm outside in the garden. But there's so many different areas for you to look at to think about what can be my hobby. Okay. If you have a hobby that you love, put it in the chat or put it in the comments because there may be someone out there who doesn't know where to start. And you sharing what your hobby is may help someone else. Okay. Another thing I like about um, a hobby is you don't have to be an expert at it. I think as entrepreneurs, we want to be good. Actually, we want to be the best. And when you have a hobby, you're starting at the beginning. Let me just make sure my mic is still on. You want to start at the beginning. You're just there. Whether I'm doing it correctly or not, hey, I'm doing it. I'm here and I'm showing up. Okay. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be something that just slows you down, slows your heart rate down. You can kind of turn your brain off and use your hands. I prefer things where I'm using my hands. That's just my preference. Something that is tangible, where I'm actually creating something, makes me happy and brings me joy. But that doesn't have to be for you. Um, One thing that, I've always thought about is, let me just turn my page here. We get these 24 hours every day, right? And we get to dictate what we do within those 24 hours. So we can be intentional and say, yes, I'm going to plan out my schedule so that I wake up and do some light stretching, getting my day started, checking in on the business. But midday, I'm going to what I call have a brain break. A brain break is where you're just doing something that doesn't require thought. Okay, just kind of turning your brain off and giving your brain a break. One thing that I really like to use is a playlist. Okay, I'm all about music. Of course, I love music. I have a soundtrack to my daily life. But I have it's called a morning groove playlist. I have a midday groove playlist, and I have an evening groove playlist. So that midday, it just sets the tone. Usually it's like some jazz or just something that I could just kick in and relax, sit down, have some lunch before I continue my day. But you have to be intentional with planning out what your day looks like. You may say the first Friday of every month, that's the day that I am going to get together with my friends. The second Tuesday of every month, I'm going to set aside 2 hours so that I can go for, not only a walk, but I'm going to go visit with someone, you know. So something like that. So you can be intentional with your day and create this life at while being an entrepreneur. You shouldn't be an entrepreneur first and then a human being second. No, I'm an entrepreneur, but being an entrepreneur gives me the time and space to create this day of my dreams. So what does your dream day look like? I would love to know. That was one of the exercises that I did some years ago. What does my dream day look like? And I feel really confident that I'm living that every day. I get to wake up and do things that I love with people that I love and really make an impact on not only the world, but the community. So I'm really excited about that. So, in closing, I really want you to think about taking a class. Every community usually has like a Parks and Rec where there are free or low cost classes on everything from ceramics to, I took a belly dancing class, um, to learning the latest ballroom hustles. It's fun, but just something that you can do that brings you joy. I'm all about stepping into our purpose and our joy and when you feel better, you will do better in your business. And believe me, that affects the sustainability of your business. And that's what this season of the More Than Business podcast is all about, a sustainable business that doesn't break you. You know, you don't want to have success if it means having a heart attack or losing your family, losing your way, losing your moral compass. You know, what's the point? Being an entrepreneur should open you up to your higher self of doing and being everything that you want it to be. You know, how can you utilize this business to not only serve others but to create the life of your dreams? And I know that may sound a little hokey, but you know, that's what this season is all about. We're talking about sustainability as an entrepreneur on the More Than Business podcast. So I would love to hear from you. If you haven't already, subscribe. You can go to our website, which is just motorcitywoman.com/more than business podcast. And I really love to hear from you. You know, I love to learn, what is your hobby? What's something that you're thinking about doing, or what's something that you like to do and you're not sure how to translate that into a hobby? You know, I love to help you do that. You can feel free to leave me a voice note on the More Than Business podcast web page, and I can use it for a future episode. Until next time, may you have peace, may you have joy, and I'll see you soon. Something bit you.